Hey everybody, welcome back. Live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope you're all doing well. First time guest on the show today, and I'm very excited about this because she has done things that I couldn't even imagine doing. For instance, she just summited in late July K2, which is a remarkable journey. And you know what? I should just stop talking about it. Rebecca Long, how do you do this? How are you?
Oh, hi, Drew. Thank you for having me on.
What an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Tell people not in the hiking world about K2. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so literally a big deal. It's the second tallest mountain behind Everest, 28,251 feet.
Yep.
It's out in Pakistan, on the border of Pakistan and China. Yeah, so I just came back from there about a month ago.
Wow.
Super difficult, but
so it was July
amazing.
29th you said you summited?
That's correct.
Okay. You never forget those dates, do you?
No.
When you do this?
Yeah.
What's the she's done Everest too, so we need to but we're just starting with the most recent. I want to talk about them both. But K2, what are the challenges that come with that region? Because I know every hike is different.
Oh yeah. So I guess what makes K2 different from Everest or any of the other big mountains out there is that it is just so steep. So we're talking like 45-degree angle, 50-degree for most of it. So you're just on your ascender, which is a mountaineering tool, pretty much the whole time. And if you fall off, you're going all the way down to the bottom of the mountain.
Oh my God! Are you attached to like the wires that you have to keep?
Yeah. I use fixed ropes. Some really, really crazy people don't, which takes a long time, but yeah.
Is it solo, or do you have like a team you're going with?
Oh, I have a team.
Okay,
yeah.
Good, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are people that do it, right? It's like that's a whole different kind of
very,
battle.
very few. I mean, there's just not many people that have done K2, even on the fixed routes. I'm actually the youngest American woman to
Is that
complete.
right?
Yeah, there's only been 12 of us in total. American
12. Wow.
women. Yeah.
I knew it was rare. I didn't know it was that rare.
Yeah,
My goodness.
yeah. Just a couple people, 100 people have climbed it.
You were kind of joking off the air because like everybody likes to talk about Everest with me, but like this is kind of serious. K2.
Yeah. This is way more involved.
So wow, what a small group to be a part of. Did you all like talk to each other? Have you talked with some of the others that have done it and been like, what do I need to know? That sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know a handful of those people I'm on speaking terms with.
Yeah. Even beforehand, it's a community, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you got some good advice. What's the biggest, anything like catch you off guard when you're doing K2? Weather, terrain that you didn't expect? I mean, I know it's steep, you know that going in, but.
Probably the bodies, like.
The bodies.
Like that you never get used to that. So like up in the death zone, like it's literally like their corpses up there that they can't bring down. So you'll see people from like years ago that are just frozen in time. And
okay, I wasn't ready for that answer.
Oh, sorry.
No,
it was the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, Drew, the weather was rough.
Yeah.
No, that I did not realize that. I mean, I guess it makes a lot of sense, but like how many?
I saw 3 up there, and it was all within one day. And then another thing that you don't really realize, you'll see bones like throughout base camp, basically, because since the mountain is so steep, when people pass away up there, most of the time they'll just fall all the way down, and like people will get caught in the glaciers, and so you don't see these parts until like years later.
Yeah. Oh man. So it kind of puts a perspective on it. Like when you go up there, you know, if you have any medical issues while you're up there, if anything happens, like you're in trouble because you can't. No helicopters are diving in to help you.
Exactly. It's not like Everest where there's helicopters everywhere that can get you out if you're in a pickle. On K2, there's only the Pakistani military helicopters, and they hardly ever give permission to get people out. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I imagine you're pretty well briefed on that before you go in.
Yeah. I knew.
Yeah.
I knew the risks involved. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did people tell you about what did you call it? The death zone?
Yeah.
So you knew about that. It still just catches you off guard to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
God, that is caught me off guard when you just said it.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
No. Don't be sorry. It's a whole. It is what it is, man. It's a dangerous thing. All right. So how long does it take you? When do you start? You finish on the 29th, or you summit on the 29th? But how long does it take you to get up there?
So the whole ordeal is about 6 weeks. It takes you a while just to get to the base camp, and then you're hanging out there for about a month, acclimatizing, like growing the red blood cells, getting ready to get to these monstrous elevations.
Oh, wow.
So by the time you're acclimatized, you're already like taking trips higher and higher up the mountain. So you're waiting for like a weather window, like the few good days that you can actually get up to the summit. This like terrible weather.
Yeah.
And from there it takes about a week to get up and then back down.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. So it's a whole ordeal. I mean, planned out. How long had you been thinking about doing it?
K2 probably about the last year. Like after I finished Everest, I was like, all right, let's do something a little bit more challenging.
Oh yeah. Okay. That ridiculous thought, by the way. No, that's funny. So yeah, so that you just wanted the next big challenge after Everest. Okay. And so yeah, a whole year in the making. That makes sense. Is it something like when you were a kid though? Like, did you know this was something you had in your bones? You wanted it.
I'd say Everest was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
K2, I thought only like suicidal people did that until maybe a year ago. So that was kind of a more accelerated dream.
What kind of like, so how big is your team?
On my team, there were 8 people, 8 climbers, and then maybe 3 guides.
So, and the guides are climbers, like they're
climbing guides.
It was always funny when I hear that. I was like, those guys are doing a lot of good work too up there.
Oh yeah, we couldn't do it without them.
So you go up as a team of like 11. Does anybody have like any close calls as far as like slips or anything? Or are you guys all looking out for each other? This is an efficient team here. I know they're very basic climbing questions, but I have to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like it's moderately safe up there, like being on the fixed lines, and we have like good meteorologists funneling us weather reports constantly, so we're not too exposed to risk. I'd say the biggest one is probably the rock fall, because people ahead of you will just loosen these massive rocks that just come hurtling down to you on that slope. Yeah. And so that you really can't.
Has that happened to you?
Much. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. The worst part, the most scary situation with that is when you're in your tent and then you hear someone else from outside being like, rock, rock, and you have no idea. You can't see through the nylon.
Oh my God.
So you're just like, should I put my helmet on? If it's bigger than a pebble, I'll die anyway.
I've seen pictures, speaking of the tents, I've seen pictures of people that because you get actual sleep, you hang up your tent and you dangle into this, I'm right. You're just hanging up there, suspended, but you're safe. But I've often thought that's like my worst nightmare is sleeping on the side of K2.
Oh yeah.
How do you get yourself relaxed to do that? Do you prefer the climbing part, or is the relaxing thing nice for you? Is it relaxing to sleep, or is it petrifying?
It's probably both, but you're also just so exhausted because climbing up there, just every step is brutal. So you sleep pretty easily, to be honest. So I don't mind rest. All
right. I'm guessing you're triple checking to make sure everything's secure before you go to sleep.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
What goes into that? Is it just several more? Is it all ropes related? How are you hanging that little makeshift bed you got?
Well, I mean, you are on a pretty steep area. We're not bivouacking, which is probably what you have in mind. But it's still tents that are on very...
you're actually on rock
ground. Well, somewhat, yeah, because you're still on it's just chipped away and the tents are on each other, and sometimes throughout the night the tents will shift a bit and it gets really scary.
Oh my God.
But most of the time they're staked down pretty well into the snow, so hopefully they don't roll off the mountain. Yeah, and haven't seen it yet.
It's all snow and ice, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so then you get up the next morning, hopefully the sun's beating down, you got weather to keep on rolling, and you just get out of the tent and start going up again?
Yeah, usually try to force down some Slim Jims or whatever, Snickers bars, whatever you can eat up there.
Yeah, I would imagine probably just quick and sugar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Caffeine pills, no time for coffee.
yeah, no coffee at all.
Nope, not up there. At base camp we did, but up above a certain level, it's just too much. It's so hard to make water up there, so they don't waste a lot for things like coffee.
Oh my goodness, yeah. This would not be a good fit for me. That would be terrible. Again, Rebecca Long joining us. She did Everest last year, K2 just a few weeks ago, end of July she summited. Then it takes you, how much, is it easier coming down, quicker coming down, or?
Actually, yeah, it only took me maybe 16 hours to come down after hitting the summit. That was a really hard day.
Yeah. What's the, is it is it a rush when you're coming back down? Like, are you adrenaline because you've summited and that was your goal and you're just so thrilled with yourself you could almost fly down, or how is that?
A bit of that, but also you're just so exhausted. Just getting up there is like absolutely taxing. So I had a really hard time coming down, and it was getting really dark. Yeah, I remember that being probably the hardest part of the expedition, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
it was like maybe 10 p.m. It's just pitch dark. You're like kind of falling through all this melting snow as you're heading down, and you're just like losing faith in yourself a bit, but still trying to carry on.
Are there like, does it get to a point where you can see like landmarks or something and you're like, I see where I'm going, you can push a little harder?
Yeah, and if you can see like a headlamp like hundreds of meters ahead, you're like, oh,
Civilization.
yeah, the North Star.
Yeah. Unless, you're in great physical shape, obviously, and going into these things, your body can handle it, but the mental game is a whole nother thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do you practice for that?
Yeah, you really don't. You don't know until you're there, but I think I've developed like a good amount of confidence since Everest. I've done a lot of climbing since then. I've been to Patagonia. I did Denali Denali in Alaska, just a few weeks before K2. And I know I can like perform well even if I'm not feeling great.
Yeah.
So I also say like, it's not a good place to give up right here. Like, it's not like you can just go home. Like, you literally have to.
That is so true.
Keep going, or you're gonna die up there.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I feel like I've said that more on this show than I ever have. Oh my goodness, a lot of things that are just amazing to think about. Rebecca Long joining us again. She just summited K2 on the Pakistani and Chinese border, and so it's mostly the Pakistanis in control there. Is there any? I know there's plenty of safe places in Pakistan. Is it fine with being an American? Is there any stuff you run into with that, or?
I'd say it's probably more difficult in like Islamabad and Skardu, like the cities that we went through to get to the mountain.
Yeah.
Definitely a culture shock, like especially as a woman, like just realizing how. Second class, probably third class citizen you are. Make sure to cover your skin.
Yeah, you did the whole thing.
Oh yeah, but you still get tons of looks from people. Like,
just because they see what your hair or what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, probably just uncovered head and yeah.
And they immediately American.
Oh yeah. We stuck out like sore thumbs. Even with the guys, they're all wearing their nerdy shorts and yeah.
So you get a lot of looks, huh?
Oh yeah, tons.
And almost you said culture shock. I imagine that is kind of because they're staring at you and like in a way you've offended them because you're not adhering to their culture.
Oh yeah.
It's that's definitely strange. I can understand that. What was the weirdest part? Was that Islamabad you said was going through?
Yeah.
I have a friend who works for he's immigration and customs enforcement, and he's been there for like a year or two. So he's been telling me some stories about that stuff too. So I'm kind of
You must have a lot.
Yeah. He also plays a lot of golf there too. He's like, it's not bad. It's like, they have caddies. They're great guys. It's very affordable to go play golf.
There's some wealth in there too.
Yeah.
Pockets of it.
I don't know. I played golf with him the other day. He's back here now for a little bit, and I said, "You've been working on your game in Pakistan?" He goes, "You'd be surprised how much I can play."
That's cool.
I know, interesting. But back to your much more interesting. So you do so you summit K2, but Everest before that is what, like a year before you said?
Yep. Yeah. So I summited. Oh my God, I don't know the exact date, but I think it was May 18th. Yeah, it was May 18th.
Okay.
So a little bit earlier in the season.
Okay, so that's the you said, I don't know if you said easy, but easier trip. What's the is that once you do, what are the challenges that Everest brings? Like, walk me through that.
Definitely the altitude brings the most challenges since it's so darn tall,
Yeah.
A lot of people just get really sick up there, altitude sick. Also just the mental challenges of you actually spend a little bit longer preparing for Everest just because it's a little bit taller, and since the mountain itself is less dangerous to spend time on than something like K2, you go on like a few more acclimatization cycles to prepare yourself. So it's just more time spent climbing. So you just have to like mentally stay strong.
But the actual climb itself is not as physical.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. It's not as steep. There aren't as many rocky sections as there are in K2, where there's like a ton of vertical rocky sections where you actually have to bring out rock climbing, which is not very usual in mountaineering, where it's mostly just glamorous hiking.
Yeah.
For the most part.
So one of the different, so K2, like just to that's like where you're spiking the rocks and pulling yourself up, and that's
Yeah.
not as much of that on Everest. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What was that crazy movie I watched during COVID? The one with the free climb guy there. You know which one I'm talking about? He's like does it like, I don't think he did Everest or K2 obviously, but he did
Alex Honnold?
was it him? Oh yeah, I think
Free
it was
Solo?
Alex. Yeah,
Yeah.
Free Solo. Is
Yeah.
that the name of it? Yeah, I remember watching that
I think it
during the
was Alex
pandemic.
Honnold.
And that was, I'm not too into the rock climbing game, but I remember seeing a lot of that. And just I'm thinking as you're telling me a lot of these things, some of that movie is coming back to me, and just some of the struggles he went through. And I'm just it's a sport that's just the mental and physical challenges of it. Just I can't get over it really.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. That's what makes it fun, though. Just really challenging yourself and seeing what you're capable of.
Sure.
You can't relate.
You're from Andover originally.
Yep.
Living in Boston these days. I can't imagine there's too much practicing for this in those locations.
There's some rock climbing gyms, and we got the White Mountains. But yeah, not really.
Do you go to the White Mountains a lot just to...
Yeah, we have some of the best ice climbing in the country up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains. So
Oh, really?
I like to escape up there a couple times and, dust off my ice climbing skills.
What makes it the best ice climbing?
I don't know exactly, but there's like enough, ice climbing comes mostly from like waterfalls that freeze in the winter.
Oh, okay.
And so there's like a handful of those in the Whites, so.
They are beautiful. They're beautiful to look at.
Oh, yeah.
From the ground for
Beautiful
me.
to climb. Yeah.
I prefer looking. I was just up there
From all
last
directions.
weekend. Yeah, from all directions.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah, but we go there a lot. We have a family place up in Maine actually, but a lot of times we'll drive into New Hampshire and go that way. And they're beautiful, and some of the waterfalls are beautiful too, especially in the summertime. We'll take the dogs on hikes and all that. Cool. We won't go nearly as far as you will. That's never happened at any of those things, right? No, they don't bring any, like, even at the beginning of Everest, like there's no dogs or anything, right?
There were a couple dogs
Really?
in Everest Base Camp. There weren't many in Pakistan. I'm not sure why there was that difference, but yeah, dogs were all over Nepal and Everest. Not like they didn't go above base camp, but
Yeah.
they were like, hanging with us. They were so sweet.
Wow, that must be kind of comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love dogs.
I would like having a bunch of dogs around before I do that.
They were so polite, like so much more polite than like any American dog too. Like they wouldn't bark, they wouldn't be a pain in the neck. They would just like hang out quietly, and like they knew when to give you space, but just
Yeah.
like follow you from afar kind of.
Hey, you're gonna do great up K2.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I'm like, oh, come here, buddy.
And yeah, I bet they probably serve a good purpose in that regard. That's interesting. I wasn't planning on asking about the dogs,
Yeah.
but it just came to me. All right, so Everest, did you get to the on a scale of like 1 to 10? If like K2 is like the 10, because that's an unbelievable accomplishment in like your eyes. With Everest, like, is Everest now like a 6 because K2 was just so much more demanding?
I'd say Everest was like an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it was still.
Let's
demanding.
not downplay Everest. It's
Oh
just,
yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But K2 is just for you. That was like
A whole nother animal.
This is a big thing for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
I might do it again if I had like a really meaningful mission to do it. Like if I was doing it with a close friend, or if I was doing it without oxygen, possibly. But I wouldn't, or maybe a different route, something like that.
Did you guys bring oxygen up there?
Yeah,
For this?
yeah, definitely.
Just like little oxygen machines.
Yeah, like oxygen tanks that you carried on your back.
It's always on your back.
Yeah, after Camp 2, we started wearing them. So after like 22,000 feet.
Okay, you throw on the oxygen.
Yep.
And then how far up is it total?
From Camp 2 to
What's the
top, or-
summit? So you're at 21.
28,251, I think. Yeah. So
okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, for that final quarter of the trip, you got oxygen tanks on because you're getting pretty high.
exactly.
Wow. Okay. And you're looking for falling rocks, and you're working together as a team.
Yes.
My goodness. How about like when you're going up? Because if the rocks thing is happening, do you ever get one as you're climbing, and you kind of got to swing out of the way?
Yeah. That happened a couple times.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Don't listen, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think she should listen to this at all. What's
Yeah.
that like, man?
I mean, it's better than if you're in your tent and can't see it. Like,
Yeah.
at least when it's coming towards you, and they tell you don't move until it's like right on top of you, so you don't accidentally like move and get in front of it.
Because once you're swaying, you're swaying. There's no stopping, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the tent thing clearly petrifies you, because you've mentioned it a couple times now. Anyone, I guess, if a rock's coming down and you're sleeping, that's not good
just
at all.
the unknown,
Yeah. Would like the tent holders, would they take on a rock? And
no, definitely not. It would just go right through.
And you'd be in trouble.
Yep. You'd be in a pickle.
Yeah. That's not good. that's the kind of unknowns I don't like up there, Rebecca Long. All right, very cool. So what's the so this was July 29th. What are we here? We're in mid-September now. So have you done any like big kind of hikes since, or has this kind of been a cool down time for you here at the end of the summer?
Yeah, I've kind of been deferalizing from my time in Pakistan and out in the wild, just getting used to society, hanging out with my dog a lot, eating some great American food.
Yeah. I can imagine. You're like, the dogs in Pakistan were really good. You get a lot to live up to.
Exactly.
What is because it's not just the climb, right? I mean, the climb's obviously huge, but it's like it is that whole culture shock you were talking about. It must seem like in some ways it was a full year process, but in some ways it probably felt like 10 days, the whole thing, now that you look back on it.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like mountaineering that it's like a time travel thing, time warp. Yeah, it feels like I was gone for months, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mountaineering. I like that. That's good. Nothing like mountaineering. What would you, is it like the, because it's not like like a sport where you can kind of, like when I'm asking you about K2 and you tell me only a dozen, people have done it from America. Was that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah, there was only 12 American women that have done K2. Women.
So when you give me a stat like that, I'm thinking to myself, like, it should be more publicized. I mean, like ESPN and stuff, but it's not like a sport where there's a scoreboard and it's people aren't filming the sport. So it's kind of one of those, you really have to, I mean, you have a whole hiking community, I know, which is huge, but it is such an internal thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, I don't know, part of me feels like he's like, how is this not celebrity status? Would you ever does that kind of mess with you a little bit? Like, I'm like doing this unbelievable athletic achievement.
I mean,
where's the Olympics for this?
Right. It really doesn't too much. I'd say maybe I can tell that there's like less of a public interest than there was in Everest, where I think I got dozens of articles, like radio show invitations, like I was on national news. So I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me, just because K2 is so much more badass than Everest, and so many more people have done Everest, like 10 times as many have done Everest, but I guess people don't really know about K2 as much. I
guess that's probably what it is, right? Everest just has that
that name.
It's like the I don't know, I'm trying to think of what a good comparison is. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like, but it's like, Everest always has that crazy appeal, but it's not I get it. Rebecca Long, again, joining us. She is from Andover, originally living in Boston these days. What part of Boston?
Just right downtown.
Downtown? Nice. Yep. Very good. You been there for a while?
Yep, 2 years now.
2 years. I just went into Boston the other night it felt like the first time in a while. Like, I just, I'm North Shore now, and I lived in Boston for many years. I was a Brighton guy. Getting out of college and all that, and lived there for many years, and I love the city, still miss it at times, but I just don't go back as much as I used to. I drove in and I was like, God, I love it here. It is a great city.
Yeah, it is a beautiful city.
Yeah, it's funny because it is kind of the exact opposite of climbing those mountains and getting up to I know it's not all peaceful, but there's several aspects of peacefulness and that you end up accomplishing up there for yourself, and then to come back to the city life, and you must see somebody like honk a horn at somebody and just be like, huh.
I know, right? The driving in Pakistan was insane. So. Oh yeah. Yeah, we think Boston drivers are crazy.
Yeah, it's like you might not make it to the summit with some of these rides, right? Yeah. Make it to the actual bottom of this hike. I wonder, when you kind of come back, does it give you a perspective on life? Like, I'm just thinking, if you're in the coffee shop, which must be another thing that you take for granted. Do you drink coffee?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you would take that for granted if you don't have it. But like, you go to the coffee shop, there's a small talk conversation. You tell somebody, I'm sure this has happened to you. You tell somebody what you just did. It must be like, do you catch people completely off guard?
Yeah. Sometimes.
As long as they know what K2 is.
Yeah. I find that it just, just going through a life or death experience like that makes like the little issues of your day to day just seem so much smaller in comparison. So I've definitely gotten less stressed about little things like I used to. Now it's like, I'm still alive. Like, I'm happy to be here. I don't care. It's okay.
That probably is what you do it for. Like, I bet that sense of like appreciating each day is probably a big reason.
Yeah,
it puts you
definitely
in a good place. I will never complain about this again now, but I I play a lot of tennis, and like I complain, our feet are always beat up usually, like just, if you play a lot. I imagine you have all sorts of issues after K2.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to look at my feet right
Feet's
after
the worst.
climbing.
Yeah.
Lost toenails, like blisters galore.
Oh, and do you know it as you're doing it? Like you're in pain.
Yeah, you can feel it for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the boots ever? You never take those off, right?
Yeah, the triple boots. We wore them from base camp all the way to the summit and back.
The triple
But I
boots.
mean, the trek in, like just getting to base camp, we're wearing like normal hiking boots, so those aren't nearly as bad. But yeah,
Okay.
those triple boots are killers.
The triple boots are just bigger,
just
everything
massive.
stronger. Yeah. Don't let any.
No frostbite.
No frostbite. Good
Yep.
way of putting it. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good chunk of the climb, and you keep those on until you summit.
Yeah, I mean in the tent you take them off, but
Okay.
and you're also wearing.
I'd be worried about that. I don't want to take those things off.
Oh,
What if
yeah.
I drop the damn...
Oh, they're in the tent with you though. But yeah,
so
that's
you're taking
true.
them off
it's
in
a
the
valid
tent?
concern.
Okay. Is it? You can make fun of me if you want. It's okay. That would never happen. All right, but that's good to know. So you take them off in the tent, and then you can have a little relief in that way. And then you get to see how bad your feet actually are beat up, right?
Yeah, I try not to. Usually, I wrap them up with like athletic tape, which kind of hides most of the issues until I get back to base camp, and then I'm like, oh gosh.
Okay.
I didn't want to see that.
Any other common physical injuries or anything you run into personally? Like, it's always the same shoulder, or like, I don't know.
I'm kind of I take a ton of ibuprofen up there just because there's all kinds of little things, all kinds of like soreness.
Everybody's hurt this time of year?
Everybody's hurting, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think the lack of oxygen, especially before you're using the oxygen tank, really becomes apparent because you're just like, and then for those like steep rocky parts, you're just so beat. You're so tired every step, and you're just trying to get up there and in one piece. And
you're very calm about the whole thing, though. I imagine
I'm just tired talking about it. You can probably tell. I'm like,
you must know you're like tough as hell, though, right? Yes.
I'm proud of myself. Definitely.
My goodness, K2 and Everest.
Thank you.
In the span of a year, do a lot of people do it that way? Like you do Everest, and then like you do kind of, obviously there's such a small number of people that complete K2, but do people get kind of that rush of like, I've done Everest, now I can do anything,
I think most people it takes a little longer to get to something like K2. I definitely was on an accelerated schedule, but I mean, there were definitely people before me that have done things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nims, the guy who did 14 peaks, he did all of them in like a little over a year, I think, and unbelievable.
What's the for you? What's the full-time job? Do you do other things, and then that must be cool. They let you get away.
Kind of a long story. So I was working at a pretty big bank up until Everest, and then I asked them to let me take that time off to climb Everest unpaid. They said no, they couldn't give me the exception, so I had to just quit in order to climb. I'm not gonna just not climb Everest. Right?
Yeah.
So instead of rushing back to the workforce after I got back, I've just taken some time to climb, get all these big climbs out of the way that I've really always wanted to do. So I'm starting to put some resumes out now, but I'm in no big rush, to be honest.
Good for you.
I'm eyeing Annapurna, so that might add a couple more months.
once you see some of the stuff you saw climbing up K2, it's probably like I'm in definitely no rush to work. Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, what a story that is. Again, Rebecca Long here joining us. I imagine out of those 12 women who have done it, anybody else local, or are you probably the only person from around here, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think I'm the only around here. I mean, another American lady climbed this year from Virginia, so she's not too far.
Okay.
Yeah.
She did K2 this year?
Yep.
Before you? Oh, wait.
Oh, the same time.
At the same time, okay.
Yeah, she was the 12th.
Oh, all right. Well, that's interesting. Have you talked?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah. Good friends now?
Yep. Definitely gets you closer, things like that.
What do you do when you summit? Is there, you're not popping champagne bottles, I don't think.
Not up there. That you have to keep the champagne a little bit lower. But, I mean, when you get up, I'm a pretty.
Wait, is there champagne on the hike?
Oh yeah, we had a bunch of base camp.
Okay.
Had a lot of alcohol actually. Yeah. Usually I'll try to bring like a little something for like the high camp, but I didn't this time just because it's so dangerous and harrowing. But yeah, when I was approaching the summit, I just felt so emotional, and this is saying a lot for me because I really don't get emotional usually, as you can tell.
Yeah.
But I was just like, holy moly, like all of this effort and all this time and all this danger. Like I just saw a dead body 20 minutes ago, but like I'm actually getting up here. Like I was just like crying up there, and just felt so amazing seeing the sun rise and just like looking all around you for hundreds of miles. Just so beautiful. Oh,
I bet. I mean, you go into it knowing you can do it. You like know it, but you never really are sure until you get there, right?
Yeah. I was just like, I'll probably be able to do this, right? Yeah, I'll be fine. Just telling myself.
Man.
But yeah.
Well, tough as can be. I can't even get my head around it. I am not made for this sort of thing. So these stories are amazing. And then like, I don't want to end gruesomely, so I'll find a way to pick us back up afterwards. But you see a body as you're getting close. Like, how many people get close and like don't? Is it somebody who didn't make it, or is it somebody who struggled immediately as they were coming down? I want to know all their stories.
I wish we could know all of their stories sometimes.
Is that how it ends? It just, you don't know really? Because
most of them you don't know. One of them I know was a Canadian who was trying to summit in the winter, and that's only been done once by NIMS, the 14 Peaks guy and his team. So, I mean, laudable effort, but pretty dangerous thing to try to do, because K2 in the summer is already it's already terrible. So trying to do that in the winter is almost a death sentence.
Because, I mean, you're talking, what kind of weather up there in the winter? Like, swirling snow?
Like constant storms, really deep snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
No.
Wow. So, I guess... Not doing it in the winter. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Don't
forget not to do it in the winter, Drew. I know you want it, but
yes. Yep.
Remember this.
I will. Yeah, only summer for me.
Okay.
But wow, that's crazy. And did you just think about it? Like those, I mean, they probably had teams too, like you did. But it's, I mean, without those people telling the story, it's just, I don't know. It is crazy. What do you think makes these people like? That person just wants to do it in the wintertime just because.
The challenge,
yeah. Nobody's done it, or few people have done it. Like, and you too. Like, I mean, to do K2, like, it's not a very, large amount of people who have done it. Like, what do you think? Why are you wired in that way to be like, let's take it on? Like this, or I don't know. When did you know you were wired that way? However you want to answer it, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I love challenging myself. I'm a bit competitive.
So do I. Golf is great. It's like really hard.
We all have our things,
Yeah.
And I don't know. This probably isn't the healthiest track, but I feel like I just need like a bigger and bigger high now, now I need Annapurna, and what's after that?
Is that where you're looking at?
Something without oxygen? Yeah.
Wow.
I'd like to.
My goodness. Well, you'll come back on after you
if you'll have
decision.
Me, sure.
Absolutely. We loved it. Rebecca Long, congratulations. It's a unbelievable achievement. I learned a lot about a lot of this stuff today too, because as you can see, a lot of these are probably laughable beginner questions for you, but I enjoyed it very much.
Questions.
You
Thank
do.
You.
Very good. It was well, congratulations again. K2, she finished on July 29th. An unbelievable achievement. One of just a dozen American women to do it. Living right here in Boston, originally from Andover. You're going to come back north of Boston at some point, or what's your living plans? Are you staying in the city for a while?
I'm staying in the city. I mean, I go up to visit my parents in Andover.
Oh, the family's still there?
Yep.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, nice visiting distance. You're staying in the city.
Like not too close.
You need a little hustle and
Love
bustle.
Love you, Mom and Dad. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. They must. What did they warn you off this stuff, or are they just as encouraging as can be?
It took a lot of courage for me to tell them. That was more scary than actually climbing the mountain. They were very angry at me for a while, and it took them a while.
Everest or K2?
K2, more like.
Everest, they were okay with.
No, they were. They weren't okay with that either. But
yeah.
I mean, by then they'd known how dangerous K2 was, so they tried to talk me out of it. But
Yeah.
Oops, did it.
You're not somebody who can easily be talked out of things, even by mom and dad. Well, very cool. This is a very unbelievable story. Great insight. I hope you all enjoyed that. Rebecca Long, anything you want to say to the aspiring climbers out there? We actually get a lot of high school kids listening too, so I bet a lot of them are kind of,
Cool.
you know how the high school brain is. Interest peaked. What's your advice to the aspiring climber?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like, believe in yourself. I never really would have thought that I could do Everest and K2 within barely a year.
Yeah.
Also, be careful on the descent. Don't use all of your energy on the way up because you still have to get down. So that's the most important part, so that you can get home safe.
I like. Very good. Nice positive message to end on. Rebecca Long, so nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, Drew.
We'll see you again someday. This is fascinating stuff, so we'll do it and follow your future endeavors. Big thanks to Maeve Power, our producer today. Thank you, Maeve. Sarah Hayden, the boss. Ryan, I think Ryan's here. Ryan's in there. Ryan Rothberg, and our small but mighty team here in Newburyport. Thank you all so very much, and we will see you next time. Rebecca Long, unbelievable story. See you.